just like a good conversation between human beings. You provide supportive roles when, like, I'm talking, and then same thing as the inverse. So it's part of musical maturity, I think, is to sort of learn when it's your turn to speak, step up on the soapbox and do your thing, and then when it's, you know, the other person's time to speak or whatever the part is calling for, to back off and sort of go in a more supportive role.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy at GhostCultMag.com, and I am honored and thrilled to be joined by Nick from For A Cowboy. How are you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you doing, dude?
I'm so good. Happy Friday as we record this.
Happy Friday. It is Friday, huh?
Yeah, it is Friday. It's never been a bad one. And we are 3 weeks out from this journey, this comeback, if you will, record for For A Cowboy. It's a comeback for listeners and fans, probably not for you guys. You've been, you know, so busy with other things. Yeah, working on it off and on forever. But, you know, so pumped. Moon Healer, it's a banger. I've listened to it a bunch. You know, I can't wait for everyone else to hear it and see if they agree with me. But just for you, what's this process been like? You know, obviously the band, you know, it's Sun Eaters 10 years ago, and which is crazy to me. But you know, it is pretty great and gratifying to have the band back.
Yeah, man, it's one of those things where I can't believe that it's been 10 years. You know, that, like, in 2014, I remember being like, holy shit, it's like 10 years since 2004. And it just seems to be like that's, I guess, the path of life, you know? It's like, if you want to get something done, you got to get it done because it's moving faster and faster all the time. You know, it's the 2nd of February, 2024 already. January's gone. Like, what the fuck? It's just crazy to me how fast time speeds up. And I know there's that ratio of like your age relative to 1 year. So when you're, you know, 4 years old, Christmas does take a quarter of your life to come back around again, or Hanukkah or whatever it is for you. But when you're 40, you know, 2.5% of your life 1 year. So that ratio continues. So it does just get faster and faster. And you just kind of, it's like Pantera videos, you know, it's like that. You just got to kind of watch it go. But to finally have this record be coming out, it is crazy because there was plenty of times in the last, you know, 8-ish years, but definitely even in the last like 4 years that I'm like, this is never. Every time we had a major setback or some, you know, oh, we're gonna have to do this now or do this, and I'm like, this shit's never coming out. But to be like, oh shit, dude, 3 weeks, it's finally out. I mean, like the 3 songs are already out, the videos that we worked forever on are out, and so just really happy to see something that to get probably the most work I've ever, you know, put into a single album. To finally have that coming out is just a great feeling in and of itself. And if people dig it, then that's all the better, you know.
That's amazing to hear from you. You have played on so many banger albums anyway. That's very, you know, I love to hear that. And
thanks, man.
Also, for people who appreciate the music industry, I know that it's like a half-life also in the process of making a record for active bands that don't have anything else going on. Right. So, you know, it just kind of occurs to me that, you know, obviously when the band started to tease that it was happening, believe me, we were the first website that was like, yeah.
I remember.
We jumped in on it. I'm very proud to say that we are the people who helped break that story. And because we're just like, you know, it's like necrophagus. Will it ever happen? You know, and you know, if Muhammad, you're out there and somehow this finds you, we love you and please come back. But if not, that's okay. We still have the treasured memories. And I'm pretty sure, like I said offline, I saw you for the first time on like Summer Slaughter. So like that's the first time I was aware of you personally.
Oh, wow. And which Summer Slaughter do you remember?
I went to a lot of them, probably like the late aughts, the 2007, 8, 9. I went multiple times.
The first
to each
one was Fallic and Necrophagus. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. With Marco Miniman on drums.
I love Marco so much. Yeah, we've interviewed him.
Sick,
he does not like to talk about Necrophagus much because he feels
he doesn't.
He doesn't. He's proud of it, but he doesn't love because he's the only one that's like a public person, so he's always asked about it. So I think he's probably like,
and he's like, I just filled in for one fucking.
Yeah, I did this one album with my pal. Please leave me alone. I have these other bands, including Aristocrats. So like, you know, he's
dude.
incredible.
I'm looking up here. I'm trying to remember. Were you guys the first? There was a really, really well written article about For A Cowboy, like finally sort of like officially leaving the deathcore, being able to like circumvent the deathcore thing. And I wanted to say it was Ghost Cult that did it.
It's for Sun Eater, it was very possibly us. And
and it was one of my favorite. I was like, I sent it to Johnny at the time, and I was like, so, these guys fucking finally the full, somebody gets it. which was cool, man. Yeah, and
Thank
I
you.
remember you guys being the first ones to do the tease thing, and you're, part of, I guess, even that, like, knowing that we had teased and that, like, you guys had caught it, that we were kind of like, when we were gonna drop the single, we were like, I was very adamant, like, let's just fucking drop the single. Like, enough teasing. We've done this so many times, because every one of those times we thought we were close to putting the record out, and then it would be into some other fucking thing would happen. And so, so knowing that, like, more savvy news outlets like you guys would catch it and stuff, we're like, let's stop fucking teasing and let's just, it's been enough. Like, hold out like 8 months or 9 months or whatever it was, and we'll just fucking drop a single so people know that it actually is coming out.
Killer. Memo to the producer, Omar, Cordy. Clip that part where he said we're a savvy news outlet and just send me a link of that over and over. I need to listen to that. I need to hear that every day, because sometimes, I don't feel like it, but I do feel like it. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, man,
sure.
Moon Healer, it's like the band never went away. It's the next logical thing, and it sounds unbelievably great. I'm really
Awesome.
I can't get enough of this record. I think people are going to lose they're already losing their shit with the singles, but I don't even think the record is so deep and complex and so much to cut through, but at the same time, it's like, I don't even think the singles are the best thing on the record.
That's cool.
Actually.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, that was one of those things where, trying to pick what to think. And a couple other cats that I chatted with are like, man, I kind of wish that I didn't. The last guy I just did one is like, I haven't listened to any of them. He's like, because I want to experience the whole record in itself first. So he's like, I specifically haven't listened to the stuff. He's like, so I'll tell you once But and another guys were like, is it kind of weird that, like, Forever Rot was the second single, because it's kind of like telling the end of the story, and so we were kind of a little like, oh man, that is one of those things that, like, it should be earned almost, because that's like when the record finally, like, it's if you finally get somewhere in the record, because you're going on this big long schizophrenic, hallucinogenic, episode, and lots of twists and turns, and then, like, you end up there, and like, okay, this is the culmination. So it was kind of weird to, like, give that away, but hopefully, like you said, like, there's enough of a ride that even though you may have heard the 3 songs yet, you still haven't heard where it's going to take you,
Word. And I don't think we had, shout out to Metal Blade and shout out to Ear Split and everybody else doing PR around the world. We work with both sides of the Atlantic, but I was going to say, I don't think we got a clear idea that it was like a actual concept record with this deep layered story until just recently, like the second press release and the second single finally was like, oh, by the way, there's a story here. There's a deeper story. It's not just like, here's a single, get crazy. Sure. There's an actual really deep story. Shout out to Johnny and the whole band.
Cool.
But yeah, man, like, to where to dive in, like, in terms of the genesis of creating, like, obviously, like, life takes precedence, family comes first, sure. Other gigs come up for you as a working musician and the other guys, things happen. So, rather than beat a dead horse about where you've been, I want to know where you just came from. So where the band started to come together to trade ideas, how long in the process has that actually been?
So I'm going to do this because this one does come up a little bit, and I want to actually just fucking look this up. Okay, so I have a version of these songs. We use pet names for the songs. A lot of bands do. But like, we use like older names that aren't really making their way into birth certificates these days, like Gertrude and Delilah and shit like that. So what was the name of that first one? Let's see, Tony J. San. I think it was his Yahoo email. All right, I'm gonna go back. Here we go. Oh shit. Okay, so Ghost Cult. I have something from. Oh wow, I have a question from James at Ghost Cult in December 1st, 2014 about Sun Eater. Tony sent me that one. But okay, so it looks like I've got like stuff of this going back to 2015. Some of these songs, so it's that long. Some of this material has been around 9 fucking years. These songs, which is fucking nuts. But we got serious about it in, like, I remember talking in 2016, like, are we going to record this year? Because there was about 7 or 8-ish floating around, and then it wasn't until 2018 that we're like, okay, it's really going down. These songs are pretty much done, like, they're done cooking. And so then we were like, all right, let's record in 2019. That didn't happen. Then 2020 happened. Some weird thing happened that messed up the world for a little while. Don't remember exactly what it was, but so we got drums done in 2020, and then it's like, I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm doing so Tony's doing guitars right afterwards, right? Like as soon as Navene flies out, Tony's gonna be there, and it's like no, because Tony couldn't take off. He could get like 2 weeks off, right, from med school, but he could not add in the 10 days of quarantine that he would have to do after the fact. So we're like, well, he couldn't come and do the record in 1 week. So we were like, what the fuck? So we kept figuring out. Eventually we're like, he's just got to record it there. Like he's just got to record the guitars himself and then send them to Jason. So then that process was like, Tony was like really weekend warrioring it and tracking what he could on the weekends. And then we'd be like, okay, got rhythms for this song. Okay, now you need the left side rhythms for that side. Okay, now the candy parts. So that took like a year and a half. And then that whole time I'm like, it's never coming out. Then finally July 2022 I go to do bass, and then so I finished bass. We did it in like it took us a little longer than normal. It's probably like 10 days or something. So then I'm like, okay, Johnny, you're up, let's go, let's get it done. So then Johnny doesn't get in there till New Year's Eve 2022, and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, like they just hammered the record out. So finally I was like, okay, it's recorded. And then we get into the mixing phase, and it was like and then mastering and everything. So it kept pushing itself out and further out. But there's something to be said about it. Like maybe we were able to come up with like a highly refined product because there wasn't like that permanent deadline. Eventually we did get it, and it was like, okay, the record's got to be in on this Monday because like Metal Blade wants it in by this time or whatever. Finally we did have some type of pressure, because honestly without that, there's still more revisions we were going to make. So it could have like been one of those things where like, somebody says that a record's never really done. They're just turned in. And that's fucking true.
That's right. And then one of my heroes in all of music is Vernon Reid of Living Colour, who says a song's not even done when the record's done, because then you go play it live and you add stuff to it unconsciously.
Oh yeah, man.
So I love that.
Doug Wimbish, dude. Man.
Oh dude, yeah. Oh my God, I could do just an interview about Doug with other bassists. I love Doug so much.
Dude. He's a sound system.
He's unbelievable by himself, and on top of how great Living Colour is, I think they're working on a new record also. I'm very
cool.
excited.
Fuck yeah.
Very excited for that. They're touring a lot, so good for them. You helped me with one of my segues, which is let's talk about Navene. Oh my God. Okay. That dude is everywhere this year and last year. He's on the new Machine Head. He's got Entheos. They already put out a brand new song after their record came out last year. Yeah. Guys, a powerhouse. You got to work in person with Navene, which I was wondering if that happened. So that's really great.
So Navene is I've wanted to work with Navene since I met him on the 2010 Summer Slaughter, where Animals as Leaders, like real kind of first big tour. They were 2 out of 10 in the lineup, and everybody would come in and watch him. And he was my favorite drummer to go watch, because he would just, it's like, I don't know what those drums did to his family, but it was bad, because it's just, he's so passionate. He's so pissed when he's playing, and just like, I love when drummers do that. Like, that's more important to me even than the technique and the skill, is like the power, the passion, and the emotion that they put into their playing. And so when we were tossing around names for the record, and when Navene came up, it was like, dude, if he would do it, yeah, we got to do it. So getting him in there was just something that was just crazy. And I remember taking time once I had his drum tracks, and I remember being like, okay, I have the demo guitars and then finalized drums. And I remember there's this one fill in the song was called Eden. Trying to think what song that became. That's the pet name of the song. I'll have to well, it doesn't matter. Anyways, there's this little part that was like, I'm not shitting you, like 6 seconds. This drum, crazy ass, super jazzy drum fill that he does. And it took me like 3 hours to get his timing down. It was just nuts. It was such a challenge for me to keep up with him on this. And along with Tony, because Tony really stepped up. That's Tony, who wrote Sun Eater, who's an incredible guitar player then, but with 10 more years of playing guitar all the time. So to keep up with those guys, it took a lot, for me to try to be like, oh shit, I got to step up,
Right on. I can only imagine, and I feel like I know, let's just throw a blanket on it and say technical death metal or progressive death metal is often thought of as a young person's game, because it takes a certain amount of skill and stamina to pull off some of these songs. But I can only guess, like, physically the demands. But at the same time, I do feel like this is a wiser, more experienced band. There's so much tasteful stuff going on across all the instruments and vocals. Cool. It definitely sounds like a grown-ass band, if that makes sense to you.
No, 100%. You know, I think there's just naturally it's going to, like, you change as a person. Hopefully you're growing as a person, you know, every day, right? But certainly over years, and then very certainly, hopefully, over decades. And so I think as musicians, you're like, that's kind of a cool thing because, like, what, you know, would the record have been less mature if we would have done a record like immediately out, you know, 2 years afterwards, done it the traditional way? Would the record have come out like it did? Probably not. You know, like every one of those little things of like having to work, you know, 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 miles apart from each other. Maybe that it just played into, you know, your how you have to process it, how you have to suggest your ideas. Like you don't just like say, no, this sucks, because like, you know, like I just got it. Like you listen to it for a while, you know, like listen to it good 4, 5, 6 times. I'm sure like even when you're reviewing a record, like if you were to just write a review immediately after you listen to something for the first time, it'll be way different than you're like, how about the 10th listen? You know, like how does it sit with you once you can dissect and be like, oh, there's that little like, I don't know, it's like a mandolin or something on the left side. Like what's this little thing? And like slowly unraveling the layers of stuff, you know? So hopefully, you know, people perceive that we grew up as people, you know, and or at least like didn't fall off our game, you know.
For sure. And I'm definitely a 10 listen guy, and we try to preach to our team of like 30 writers to please listen at least 3 times before you write a word. I'm sure there's people out there, you know, with all the websites and things going under and staffs getting laid off, which my heart breaks for everybody. You know, I think fans think anyone can write a review, but that's not the case. And
right.
I don't
is
think
that kind of happening, the layoffs and stuff?
Well, you know, Condé Nast basically folded Pitchfork into GQ and fired half of their people. Bandcamp let go of half of their people, including a lot of their editorial people. Sports Illustrated is not what we do, but they basically are gone or maybe gone forever. So it's wild. Like I
was unaware. I've seen tons of tech layoffs.
Yeah, it's happening every, you know, like unfortunately January, February is like, okay, now we saw the Q4 result numbers, let's lay off a lot of people instead of fire. The thing with Pitchfork, I know a lot of metalheads, you know, I also was like, oh, they never cared about metal till it was a hipster thing. And but the reality is they were important, and they were how a lot of people did. By being a humongous website, it trickled down on a lot of people who would have never discovered black metal, or would have never discovered post metal, would have never discovered some of the Ocean, or some of these bands on your, you know, like Metal Blade bands, would not have found them without Pitchfork promoting underground music. Finally, I was not happy when, you know, it's like, oh, now they're gonna jump on, but they were important, and I think it sucks if they're gone. And I don't and I don't know anybody that goes to GQ, Gentleman's Quarterly, which is basically a fashion magazine and a lifestyle brand. I don't know anyone who's like, I'm gonna go into GQ and read about Killswitch Engage. I don't think so.
Maybe Nurgle reads GQ.
Maybe he is a very stylish fellow.
He's very fashionable
when he's not in the stage getup.
Yeah, exactly, man. I could see him on the cover of GQ.
I could. Or maybe Polish. Poland has
GQ?
a GQ. Yeah, right? I don't know. I feel like he's either loved or hated all around, so it's all good. Let's talk about some bass stuff. The moment I've been waiting for the most as a retired bassist, and not that great in general. A singing bassist, so I always use that as my excuse. But you know what I love about this record and your career in general is there's a beautiful lyricism to your playing. A lot of guys can shred, but you're always playing at both somehow at the same time for the song, but also there's so much tasteful, almost like you know, I don't want to get carried away, but like in you know, rest in peace to Sean Malone of Cynic or DiGiorgio. There's a lyricism to your playing that's beautiful a lot. Like
thank you.
There and even little things. There's like a little break in. I think it's the sun gave me ashes, so I sought out the moon. And there's like a stop and just a little slide. This is for a second, and I think that's the song, and it's so tasteful and really makes it pop. You know.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny. I teach bass lessons, and a lot of times, you know, I just pull on stuff from that I, you know, learned from like, you know, Victor Wooten and guys like, you know, Ryan Martini, and but there was like an element of like everybody, the non-music people, you know, non-musicians focus probably 90% on lyrics and on vocals. It's our main connection to each other as human beings. It's how we communicate to each other. It's the original instrument. I've always loved singing. I used to sing in a cover band with some buddies, and I would do like, sometimes I would play bass, but a lot of times I was like, I just want to sing. And, we do Journey and Whitney Houston and stuff. I like getting up to that higher range. But so I've always loved that form of expression, and I feel like there's sort of this place available if the music is written in such a fashion to allow the vocals, to allow the bass to not only be your traditional tie of tying the rhythm of the song, the drums, to the melody of the guitars, but to do it in a way that's like singing. And especially in extreme metal bands where there's not clean singing, like there's room for that sort of vocal expression, and just your phrasing. So a lot of times, like one of the things that you can do is to practice, like find a singer that you like, or even like a public speaker that you like, transcribe the vocal part or the speech for the phrasing, so like you can look around the room, and this is something Wooten used to teach, where he's like, you can take the phrasing of say you're like, here's something in E minor, right? And instead of going da 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 da, you can do like put the phrasing of anything else that's like vocally prominent, like Pledge Allegiance, you can play it dun, da, 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 like I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, just to use the phrasing, so because it's like we're so used to hearing that. So I always try to think about and teach my students that way, is to be like, think about it as if you're saying something, because music is ultimately a conversation. It's a form of expression. And so what better way to do that than to like pull it as closely as you can to the main way that human beings communicate with each other.
Rad. By the way, is there ever a period of time on the flip side of that where you have to edit yourself down a little bit, because even if the part is calling to you to do something else, you need to just kind of lay back and keep it simple?
Yeah, for sure. There's I've sort of learned how to self do that, to where I'm like, it's thinking about things more like they are as a conversation, and to be like, if the guitarist has this part that's really intricate and he's really saying something cool, like you don't want to come on top of it and be like, yeah, and he's saying all this cool stuff, and I want to say what he's saying too. Like if it were a conversation, you would back off and be like, yeah, yes, exactly. Like that, you provide a supportive part, just like a good conversation between human beings. You provide supportive roles when, like, I'm talking, and then same thing as the inverse. So it's part of musical maturity, I think, is to sort of learn when it's your turn to speak, step up on the soapbox and do your thing, and then when it's the other person's time to speak or whatever the part is calling for, to back off and sort of go in a more supportive role.
We were talking about time flying and things like that at the top of the interview. And so, of course, Nick, the 2004 guy, Nick, the 2014 guy, and now Nick, the 2024 guy, what individual piece of advice as a player would Nick give in each of those years?
Man, I would say that's a really, really solid question. I would say that I would have gotten into the theory side of things a little earlier. Because I was very at the beginning in like 2004-ish, I was like, I took music theory in college and I knew my way around the block, but I assumed that it was an authoritarian viewpoint. You have to do this, and that it would destroy my individual voice. And so I specifically like just used my ear, and I ended up probably doing a lot of the same things I would have done had I gotten into it, but it was just like limiting your vocabulary. So I would have probably gone deep in and at least just gotten into modes back in 2004, and then I guess the rest of it I would kind of almost say you learn if you like who you are. And this goes for anybody, right? If you like who you are is a result of the choices that you've made along the way. And so if you were to have made different choices, you wouldn't be the person that you are today. So I remember I asked my dad that recently, just randomly at Christmas dinner. I was like, what's your biggest regret? And he's like, I don't have any. And I was like, why? He's like, because I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't make those choices. And I was like, oh, okay, I like it. I'll take it. So that would be it. I would just like, yes, go back, do a little more theory. Maybe, I could have made some much more sound financial decisions, but that shit's always hindsight. Oh, dude, I mean, Al was getting us to buy Bitcoin during Sun Eater and Doge. Like actually we did. I bought like $100 worth of Dogecoin during the Sun Eater recording at Sukov's. And if I would have found that, because I left that on Cripsy, going away. But if I would have kept that $100 when Doge was at like 70 cents, it would have been like, I think it was like $400,000 or $500,000 or something. I was like, shit. I mean, Al sold all of his Bitcoin when he bought in at 3,000, sold it at like 6. If he would have waited till it was 70, I mean, there's so many things that we can go back in hindsight and fix. But it's like, it's part of the lesson.
Dogecoin. I have like 549 worthless Dogecoin. But anyway, my whole portfolio took a complete
crap.
Yeah. But anyway, What are you going to do? I'm here for a good time and riffs, not a long time and finances. But I'm a music journalist. I'm not here for money. But anyway, if you have your number one most indispensable piece of gear that you cannot live without, the house is on fire, I save my family, I save my pets, I save my children, what piece of gear do you also grab on your way out the door?
Oh man, I think as many bases as I can. Yeah, I think like there's something about like when somebody handcrafts an instrument for you, and that it was a living thing at one time, and you can never get one exactly the same. I think bases would be the first thing after pets, passport, hard drives with pictures on them and that kind of stuff. But yeah, as far as gear goes, I think you'd go bases first. You can get another amp, but you'll never get that one, MTD, 534 that it was just the perfect piece of wood. You know what I mean? Not
to mention all the memories inscribed into that fretboard and that body.
Sweat.
Right? All the sweat and all the
sweat, blood,
the time, right? All the memories. Just the last thing, and I don't know if you can confirm or deny, but I feel like there was something out there that something might happen around the 10-year anniversary of Sun Eater, either from Metal Blade or the band or both. I think it was alluded to in some coy social media stuff. And you don't have to confirm it, but I just want to put it out into the universe that maybe something is coming on top of the new record.
Yes. So we made this suggestion last year. I'm really hoping, I mean, it just makes so much sense to me. That's like, these are sister records. It's the yin and the yang, and so 10-year anniversary, like, how do you not put out, something with both, I mean, ultimately too, I would love to do a headline run or even just one night in, but of Sun Eater and Moon Healer together. Talking my guys into that is a whole other thing. But for me, as like, if I were a fan, I'd be like, dude, you gotta, like, just one time, camera it up so we can put it out as a DVD, but like, to get this material shown to people at least one time all the way through in its entirety, the way it's meant to be expressed would be so cool. So I'll work on getting the guys to do that.
That would be amazing. In general, I would love to see you guys be able to tour at least a little behind this record, and it deserves to be heard. This is a fantastic record. Thank you for Moon Healer. Thank you for sticking it out. Congratulations on everything else you have going on, and the guys, and Sukov, and Metal Blade. Just tip of the hat to everybody for a job well done. Thank you for this interview, Nick. It's been a job, no pun intended. And man, thanks for hanging out with Ghost Cult, and we'll see you hopefully on tour.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Thanks so much, dude. I appreciate it, dude. Great talking to you.
Of course. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
Okay, brother.